Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show as I make some changes here. John, I apologize. We had a power failure Friday after we got off the air, and I'm still setting things back up. Isn't that terrible how you get used to having everything just the way it is on computers and things like that? The power drops out, and you got to change everything back to normal. You know what I'm saying?
Friday?
What's that?
Were there storms on Friday?
No, just I think it was.
You didn't pay the bill this month. Is that it, Brad? The make-believe lobbyists at Ameren that you like to chastise, did they cut off your power?
No, it was. It was interesting. I saw this car pull up that said Ameren. What did it say on the side? It said Ameren. I guess what do they call it? What did you just say they were again?
Lobbyists, Brad?
Oh, yeah, the Ameren lobbyists, they came up, they shook my pole for a while, and they go, watch what you say, buddy! And my electricity flickered and everything went nuts.
That's the first time anyone's shaken your pole that you didn't have to pay in advance.
That's right. You're exactly right.
Did you tell them that the money was on the dresser, Brad?
Yes. That is John Combest, Combest. I spell it because of the fact that you need to punch that into your I can't even talk. In your computer, your smartphone, your tablet, whatever you use, your watch, if you do that, put it in there and you'll find this amazing website that's updated every single day. And in the 23 years that John's been doing this, how many days have you missed, John?
0.0.
And what we do is we start the show off with John's top three. We bring this guy in. Your name, sir? Hold on a minute. Nothing's working right this morning. Let me try that one more time. We bring it. What's your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
I'm sorry, John. See, the board.
Ameren stole that one, too. But hey, Brad, shake the pole a little bit.
I did. Okay. We start off with.
In third place.
Do you remember in the 70s when we had all that tension with China? Do you remember that phrase, ping-pong diplomacy, Brad?
Yes, started by Richard Nixon.
That's right. As immortalized in pop culture in the movie Forrest Gump. Ping-pong diplomacy. We have a little bit of that same thing back and forth, at least some of that concept, as it comes to abortion in the state of Missouri, Brad. Because we got a ruling late on Thursday, July 3rd, from a judge. You know, when you follow these abortion rulings, sometimes it's like watching a ping pong game. One group says something, and then the other gets a favorable ruling. Then the pro-life side gets a favorable ruling. Then the pro-choice side gets a favorable ruling. And as it turns out, Brad, ping-pong diplomacy, at least ping-pong is fair, because the judge is once again a Chinese lady, a woman named Jerry Zhang. She was born in China, and then she came to the United States. She followed the Brad Hildebrand model. She got a journalism degree, Brad. Isn't that quaint?
Poor girl.
Can you believe someone would come to the United States and get a journalism degree, Brad?
Well, she traveled halfway around the world to waste her time. That's what she did.
Yes, she did. She could have just gone across the river to Illinois. But she also got a law degree from the University of Missouri, Columbia, along with that journalism degree. I don't know why I'm doing a fat black man voice there. She is an Asian woman. And for the third time, Brad, she is ruled on the pro-choice side. So this ruling came out Thursday, late on Thursday, and once again she has ruled that pretty much abortions can just go ahead willy-nilly in the state of Missouri, kind of like voters approved back in November. Now in her ruling, you know, Brad, 2 other times she's had a higher court come in and say that her ruling was not either accurate or that she made a mistake. But this time, maybe the third time is a charm. And she got rid of a lot of the previous restrictions on abortion, essentially saying, look, what the voters passed back in November gets rid of all those previous pro-life restrictions. Now, as you might expect, Brad, AG Andrew Bailey, well, he was actually working on Thursday. And to answer your question, no, he wasn't just working at the 97.1 FM St. Louis Talk offices, he was actually doing law work. And he says that he is going to appeal immediately. Here's his quote. "We respectfully but firmly disagree with the court's decision to once again block the enforcement of Missouri's duly enacted health and safety regulations." This is what the statement says. So in plain language, Brad, I guess we can say voters in November approved a pro-choice ballot initiative. There have been a number of challenges to that. This judge in Kansas City, for now the third time, has said, let's make that pro-choice law, the law of the land. And Andrew Bailey says, let's go back to some of those safety restrictions that we had before so that we don't quite implement this right away. And as you know, Brad, as we've discussed, in 2026, we're going to have a whole lot of campaign spending on a brand new pro-life initiative. So the ping-pong, the Chinese ping-pong, is once again on as of Thursday afternoon.
You know, John, you know how I feel about this. This is just...
I do, but you know what? Some people, Brad, who are listening for the first time might not know how you feel about it. How do you feel about this ping-pong Chinese diplomacy?
You know who's to blame for this?
Who is that?
Bill Eigel.
Oh, and now, Brad, walk us through the logic of why Bill Eigel and the Freedom Caucus are to blame here.
Because they did not enact changes to the IP laws, the initiative, Initiative petition laws. Essentially, they made it to the point where anybody who's got a little jingle in their pocket, who doesn't live in Missouri, decides, hey, let's change the laws in Missouri. And they send, if you've been to the post office or any public building in the last 10 years, you've been approached by somebody with a clipboard, and they say, hey, would you sign this petition? And you sign the petition. You don't even know what you're signing. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, you're right.
And then they send all the petitions to D.C. or to Jefferson City. And then these out-of-town people spend millions of dollars, and they buy radio and TV advertising, but not on my stations. But they spend all this advertising. They say, oh, our new petition is so great. You're going to love it. And people go, oh, man, I'm voting for that because it only needs a 50% vote. So the Freedom Caucus and the Bill Eigel guys, every year, we're going to take care of initiative, or what is it again? Initiative, I can't even think this
Initiative
word.
petition. Yeah,
we're going to take care of initiative petition. John, what did they say back in January of this year? What did the Republicans say they were going to do?
Pass initiative petition changes, Brad.
What did they not do?
Pass initiative petition changes.
It's all the stupid. It's like I heard somebody the other day saying, "Oh, the Missouri legislature is not in good shape anymore because we don't have Bob Onder and Bill Eigel." Maybe we're in better shape because we don't have Bob Onder and Bill Eigel. You know what I'm saying?
Now, to add an asterisk to that, Brad, I think Bill Eigel and Bob Onder would say that they did everything they could to pass initiative petition changes, and that other senators blocked it or slowed it down. To your point, though, Brad, normal people, and even people that are not normal, like you and me, look at it, and it's hard to keep track of why initiative petition changes didn't pass the legislature. So I agree with you that the legislature could have and should have done this a long time ago, and they didn't. And so the pro-choice law passed narrowly, but it still passed, and pro-life folks are going to have another crack in 2026.
But see, here's the deal, okay? The people voted on it. It's just like the gambling thing, okay? We live in it's not a democracy, or it's a representative republic, okay? But still, we vote on things like this, okay? If 50 and a feather, as they call in the legal profession, which means, let's say there were 10 million votes for and 10 million and one votes against, it wouldn't have gone through, okay? Andrew Bailey. And once again, I think he should stop doing talk shows and let Annie Fry come back on full time, so he's not there all the time, because he's full time and Annie's part time now.
We disagree, but go ahead.
Okay, he should just say, okay, the people voted for this. I'm not going to do all these.
And he should give up. And you and I just disagree, Brad, because I think there's ways to write another initiative petition and let voters have another chance at voting on it in 2026.
But what are they going to do? It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same ballot language. It's going to be the same thing over again.
Yeah, think of how much different this conversation would be, Brad, if those either pro-life or pro-choice people had tossed you a couple grand and advertised. You wouldn't be complaining as much. You know who's not complaining? People in stories number 2.
You're going to cut me off, John. I got more to say, but I'll just let you do that.
Up a notch to number 2.
Politically speaking, the brainchild of Jason Rosenbaum. It plays on Friday It's St. Louis Public Radio's St. Louis on the Air, the politically speaking hour. And Jason's done this for many years. He's had over a period of time, there's like an open seat where some seat warmer will come and keep him company and occasionally ask a halfway interesting question while Jason really leads the show. And he had House Super Minority Leader Ashley Aune on Friday. And then the story is up today on St. Louis Public Radio. Ashley Aune was asked many questions by Jason and his the other lady who was sitting there about the legislative session, about the special legislative session. And Ashley Aune says, they passed the Royals and Chiefs incentives, Brad. I know that you don't have any opinion on that either. But here's what Ashley says about it. She supported having the Chiefs and the Royals getting a little bit better deal, maybe helping them out with a little bit of money. But she says, quote, for them to continue to be hedging with Kansas as an option, that's frustrating. And I really just wish that the Chiefs and the Royals would make a decision. Stay here in Missouri and let's move on and keep going. Now, she talked about the Royals and the Chiefs there, of course, but she also talked, Brad, probably what most applies to the folks in our listening area. She talked about the fact that, Democrats are going to come back strong in 2026. And she was asked about where those seats might be, where she might pick up. And she says, quote, there are areas all over the state where we have opportunity, whether it is in St. Louis County, St. Charles County, and then she lists a few other counties where Democrats could totally start picking up seats. And in fact, she says, I am more confident about flipping seats in 2026 than I have ever been. Now, that's good news for Democrats, it sounds like. Helpfully, this morning, Brad, I linked to a piece back in October where she did an interview right before the election with Scott Fawn. And Scott asked her how many seats Democrats are going to flip. And she said that she expected, quote, I fully predict, ... we're going to flip 3 to 7 seats. And the Democrats picked up a sum total of 0 seats in November, Brad. So that's Ashley's track record for predicting Democrat victories and flipping seats. But it's totally going to happen in 2026, Brad. You buy into that?
John, I think the Democrats are going to run the table. I think they're going.
Oh, they are. And let me interrupt you, Brad. Let me guess. It's because women are so mad about these Republicans trying to overturn abortion, and people are real mad about stuff. Is that it, Brad?
No, it's because they're saying we will never have Bob Onder and Bill Eigel back again. And matter of fact, we're going to stack the deck. We're going to win every seat in the House and every seat in the Senate. We're going to show you Republicans, you're all a bunch of jerks. That's what's going to happen. And by the way,
I
John,
think that's probably fair. And just as a reminder, Brad, every few months I point out that the media loves the story that, well, women are so mad about abortion and it's going to lead Democrats to big victories. And that's what was going to elect Nicole Galloway governor, and that didn't happen. And a year ago, my friend Brad Hildebrand was talking about how Crystal Quade's got a real shot. She's got a really cute roller derby commercial, and she got trounced by a wide margin. So when women and angry types come out and say, oh, it's going to be our year, just wait till next year. This time it's different. Sure it is, sweetie.
John, they did an exit poll for Crystal Quade's, election, and you know why she lost?
She needed a little bigger donk.
No, she had her name misspelled in one of her billboards on 170.
She sure did, and thankfully and helpfully a radio show in St. Louis pointed that out, Brad.
Yeah, can you believe that? Okay.
Speaking of angry, crabby women, that leads us nicely into story number 1.
I have one question for you. Jason Rosenbaum. You know Jason pretty well, right?
I would say I do, yeah.
Does he ever get excited?
Yeah, very much so.
He's got that voice where he always sounds the same when he was on KWMU. Is that the KWMU official voice where he always sounds the same? Hey, Jason, there's a guy with a gun to your head. Oh, please, sir, put that gun away.
I think vocally, I think he's an understated guy. I think Jason works a lot of emotion into his, if you read his pieces, like, he certainly doesn't write in a boring way. And I think that's genuinely how Rosenbaum talks. Like, it's not an act when he does that, but he gets excited about a ton of stuff. So ask him about Bill Goldberg super kicking Bret Hart and knocking Bret Hart out of commission. Ask him about being there at WrestleMania, Brad, when Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart had a double turn in a main event at WrestleMania. Ask him about that.
So you're saying he doesn't talk by the NPR style book where they all talk like this?
Yeah, I think Jason was actually born with that. It was a chip in his head.
The number one.
Speaking of emotion and speaking of Missouri pride, we have the best of worlds and the worst of worlds. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Over the weekend, to be specific, on July 4th, which was a Friday, there were a lot of people that were still real mad at Donald Trump. And there was a No Kings 2 rally held in Kansas City. This story is brought to us by KSHB. That's a television station over in Kansas City. And people were really mad, Brad, because that one big, beautiful bill passed. And Trump signed it on July 4th. And the bill passed and people were really angry. And my favorite quote, KSHB did the typical thing where they go out and they find some protesters and, you know, they're straight out of Central Casting or a diabetes commercial. And they found a woman named Cassandra Collins. Now, she doesn't fit the mold because she looks like she could probably fit in between the aisles in an airplane. But this woman says, quote, "I was crying all day yesterday about how many people are going to lose health care and their freedoms. And that's why we're here." Her name is Cassandra Collins. She's an African-American woman. And again, she looks like she takes pretty decent care of herself. And here's what I don't get, Brad. Would a bill actually make someone cry all day long? Or is she a normal person and she's mad at Trump or whatever, and she thinks we're going to believe that a bill made her cry all day? So either she's mentally got some stuff going on, or she thinks that we're so naive that we're going to think that she spent a day crying over a bill that got passed.
John, I've cried over a bill.
Well, yeah, but those are bills that come in the mail that you have to pay and you don't have the money for.
No, I cried over a Bill Eigel on his last day of being in the Senate. I thought to myself, oh, Bill.
You cried when he lost, right, Brad?
No, Bill's gone. He's not going to be our senator anymore. What's going to happen to the United States?
I know. It's such a shame. Real quick,
terrible.
Brad, I know we're up against break here, but when I said it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. That was the worst, this woman pretending that Trump made her cry. I hope Trump didn't make her cry, actually. But a piece in Politico's Playbook. They're perhaps best known for carrying our Mark McCloskey news a few months ago. But anyway, Politico Playbook has a note that describes Eric Schmitt as the liaison between President Trump and other conservative members of the Senate. And here's how he's described in Politico. Schmitt has, quote, become a trusted point man, unquote, for Trump and J.D. Vance. And Schmitt conveyed to the complex web of coalitions in the Senate that there was simply no alternative to passing the bill, a person familiar with the dynamics. So someone high up, probably in the White House administration, is telling the folks at Politico, look, Eric Schmitt was a key linchpin in this, and he was our liaison between us at the White House and senators that might have been on the fence. So shout out to Eric Schmitt for being an important liaison there, Brad.
And you don't know this, John, but I have inside information. What's going to happen is...
what is that, Brad?
Eric has so much pull in the United States Senate and with Trump is that I understand not too long, maybe in the next 6 months, there will be a demolition crew that will start tearing up runway number 1129, and they will restore the city of Bridgeton to the previous Colonel Eric Griggs configuration, and we won't have that crazy runway that nobody uses anymore. What do you think, John?
Thank goodness. And then we're going to get the Bridgeton Air Defense.
Right.
To come out and play a role. And then we can finally, we could have, there's guys on the radio that are calling a little bridge work. They're calling it a culvert or something. And we're going to have those guys thrown in the pokey.
Okay, we need to take a break.